Hello and welcome to Nerdist Book Club. I'm Rachel Heine, and joining me is my good friend and talented person, Hector Navarro. Maude is out tonight, but she will be back next week. We miss her. She is off doing hopefully nice, fun things that make her feel good. And welcome to everyone else at home. If this is your first time joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us your favorite books and genres to read. Why did you join? Are you more of a film buff who's getting into adaptations like Hector? Do you like horror like me and thrillers? Maud loves fantasy. Now I'm on a fantasy kick. So introduce yourselves. Let us know. We'll say hi. Nerdist Book Club is exactly what it sounds like. It is our weekly discussion that kind of touches on everything from themes of the reading and character development to fan casts and totally unrelated tangents. It's a pretty good time. And there's Hector, you got some wine? I don't have.
I
Anyway.
do. With our old show iteration logo, I have some
Yes.
beautiful peanut nor. I don't know what this is.
A peanut nor.
Mm.
Oh, wow. That was a
You know
glug.
what's funny? You know
That
what's
was a
funny is
glug.
last week my roommate actually, I don't know how they ordered it, where they ordered it from, but there is a sweet berry wine with a picture of Steve Brule on it.
Hmm?
Yeah, I had it and it was delicious and it was
I've had it
really fun.
too.
Yeah, it's good.
I got it as a gift for someone. You had to like I think it was a limited thing, but he did like
Mm.
a Steve Brule, yeah, John C. Riley, who's amazing. I just
He's the
I
best.
love him.
Do you know that he's still, I know you know this because when we did the like the tweet watch along for Kong Skull Island last year, when we thought that Godzilla versus Kong was going to come out last year.
No.
uh
Soon, and I've heard it's so
Soon.
good.
I
I've heard
can't
it's
wait.
really, really good.
But John C. Riley was like hopping in, and the director Jordan Vogt Roberts was like live streaming like a live tweet type of a thing, and then John C. Riley like pulled up a samurai sword. He's like, I held on to this from the movie, and he had
It
like still had the samurai
was
sword. It
amazing.
was great. It was really great.
Oh, that's
So yeah.
good. Ooh, we have a bunch of new people in the chat. This is super exciting. So, well, this is a classic member of the club, but Java Bookie Girl says it's her first time reading it. Nicholas O'Kelly, first book with the club. Love this one. Love fantasy. Excited to join. Yay, welcome. That's so exciting. Chelsea is a fantasy lover through and through, also writing a Fae-based book. Please tell me more
Ooh.
about that
You
because
don't Faye.
how could you say that when Maud isn't here?
I know. It's because
How
I
could
miss
you do
her.
that?
And we need to have some more mod energy.
No, she would appreciate it so
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not clever enough to
Yes, you
go
are.
back and forth.
You're the smartest. You're the smartest.
But we did read the first book of Throne of Glass last year for book club, and that got me on a fantasy kick that I still have not kicked my habit.
Yeah.
Kristen says, I'm so excited Netflix is making a show out of this book series. It's awesome. Star Pilot 6 is a big reader, mostly science fiction. Haven't read this book actually, but I enjoy hearing you guys talk books, even if I haven't read it. Oh,
Wow.
that's so
That's so nice. That's
nice.
very nice.
That's so
We're
nice.
gonna spoil it, so I hope you're okay with that.
I know.
At least the first half of
Um,
the first book.
yes. So over the next 6 weeks, we're reading Lee Bardugo's Shadow and Bone trilogy, leading up to the new Netflix adaptation, which is coming out at the end of next month. This week, we read the first half of the first book, Shadow and Bone. First of all, I want to know how everyone did with the reading. Whoops, because I said it was a quick read and I felt pretty confident in that assessment, but I wanted to know, was it a quick read? Let us know in the chats. And I just read the whole trilogy a few months ago, like back to back to back, because I'm impatient.
Oh, so you've read these
And
already.
yeah, I was
Okay.
alone for the holidays too. So I just, and I finished Throne of Glass and had to find new characters to fall in love with immediately, or it would have been too sad. Um, so Hector, this is your
Great.
first time reading it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts so far?
My thoughts are it reminded me a lot of Throne of Glass. And I don't know if I almost feel bad because I'm almost like, oh, I kind of wish that I hadn't read that first, or maybe that there was more space in between the time that we are tackling these, because I feel like I'm not as familiar with, first of all, the fantasy genre or genres, but secondly, especially like YA in that approach. And so I'm sure that people in the chat could tell me, I'm sure that when we reconvene next week and have the after show book club show, all of those wonderful people in the Geekbomb Discord, they'll point out to be like, yes, this is a sort of a trope or a standby thing in YA fantasy. This is another one. This is another one. So I was making some of those connections with Throne of Glass, and ultimately my takeaway for the first half of the first book so far is I'm a dude in my 30s and I'm going to try super hard to connect to this material. I may not, but that's okay if
That is
something is not
okay.
for me. But it's going to be about me appreciating what sets this apart, what makes this different from other stuff
Totally.
that I've read. And honestly, the other thing that really helped me, because I was having a tough time connecting to some of Alina, she's the main character's, like,
Mhm,
some of her, I guess, wants in this first half of the book. I
mhm.
was, because again, when you're in your 30s, we were just talking about it before we started rolling, Rachel, but like when you're in your 30s, you're like, oh man, I would spend less time doing this if I were in my 20s and if I were to do this again. So
Yeah.
whenever I read a story and it's a young person in
Oh,
their teens or their 20s and they're pining after someone, I'm kind of like, man, you gotta poop or get off the pot. Like, pull the trigger, like, figure out how y'all feel and move on, or commit, or,
there's
it's just that it's the young person
I
love. I get
know.
it. I
You
get
are
it.
already old man yells at cloud.
I
You're already doing that in
I
your
have been
early
since
30s.
I was 12 years old, Rachel.
Yeah,
I've been
I
Abe
believe that
Simpson
actually.
since I was 12, wearing my Dockers. Uh so those are some of the things I struggle to connect with. But then the thing that really helped me is, and I kind of wish I had done this before starting to read it, period, because I read it with nothing. I read it with zero
Then you watch the
knowledge.
trailer.
I watched the trailer and I went, "Oh, this looks dope." Like, I watched
Yeah.
the trailer and I went, "Oh, okay. I get the threat. I get the
Mhm.
world. I get the basic premise of.
The vibe.
I get the vibe.
It's
I
a good
get
vibe.
the,
It's a
you
good,
know."
well, let's
Yeah.
actually, we have the teaser trailer, I think, queued up so we can all
Oh,
watch it
seriously?
together. Yeah,
Cool.
I know. I don't know why we're doing that. But I do, no, I'm excited because I think this is going to be a really fun one to, obviously we won't have seen it reading it, but knowing the vibe and talking about what we want to see and what to expect, and we can get into all the nitty gritty. But having an adaptation, I think, is going to make things a lot, even if you don't necessarily connect to the characters, kind of opens that up for you. So can we
Absolutely.
roll the trailer? I'm gonna see what's going.
The shadow fold. A scar on the map that tore our country in two.
Okay, at least
Good.
How are you doing here?
it's running. Okay,
I'll make
good.
it.
Boy, I'm glad I watched
Promise.
To destroy it, we need a miracle.
Great casting.
Pretty face. Will
Yeah.
someone let me know when we're about to go back?
Back.
Oh, we're back.
Great. Wonderful.
That was the first time we tried that at home. So if you just heard us rambling, I'm not sorry, honestly. That's who we are. So I think it looks amazing. I read the trilogy because I wasn't sure if we were going to end up doing it for book club, and have been waiting to see the teaser. And all I really knew was that Ben Barnes is the Darkling, and that is perhaps the best casting I've seen in a really long time. Seems like some folks agree with you, Hector, about the YA of it all. I will say it's kind of fun that we're going to be doing the whole thing, because I do think you will enjoy, I'm pretty certain you will enjoy book 2, which was my favorite one, more for different reasons. And then
I
the
can't
Netflix.
I can't recall any other time other than when we went through the Harry Potter series a few years back where we've actually been able to go back and revisit a series or do a book two of any kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah. I
so
mean,
this is a going to be a definitely a new experience in 2 weeks when we start book two. So I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, I love a good series. And, I think for folks who are just joining us or for people who are watching along but haven't read this part yet, Hector, do you want to dive into the basic
I
premise?
would love to, but first I got to read this comment from Clever Girl in the chat. Clever Girl says, Alina is too pretty in the trailer. Where are the dark circles under her eyes that they make such a big deal about? I love this and I hate this about all literary adaptations. I think that just before we dive into the summary of it, the other thing I did earlier this afternoon is I watched a full like 45-minute panel with the cast of the show
Oh, cool.
and the showrunner who's
Will you send
adapting.
that to me later? I want to watch
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, IGN put it out in their fan fest and they crush
Oh,
it at this
cool. Oh,
stuff.
yeah. I
It's
haven't
one of
watched that
those.
yet.
And Lee Bardugo, who wrote it, was there too, and she's one of the executive producers of the show. And just getting to hear every one of the cast members talk about their role and to get to hear the actress who plays Alina talk about that role, I was like, oh, I love this actress. I'm rooting for her. I instantly made a connection and went, I really, really, really can't wait to see her perform this character. And one of the things that I was really excited about was that she very briefly described how she is an actress of mixed race, and that can be difficult to find certain roles. And the
Mhm.
other flip side of that is that when there are roles that they're looking for that she would fit, like ethnicity wise, that sometimes that kind of background is just tacked on there without necessarily exploring like what it means
What
and
it
how it can
means. Yeah.
affect a character and everything. So she was describing how like she read even the sides and saw that it may have been changed from the book or never explicitly stated in the book or whatever the case was, that she read the sides and she went, oh, okay, thank God that it was actually referenced in the show, and there's a part of the character that deals with what ethnically the character is. And
Oh.
so I was so excited about that. And just
Oh, I feel
yeah.
like I
You
know.
think
I
you know
think
what
it's
it
a
is?
change from the books, but I think I know what it
Okay.
is, which is it is a interesting and I think could be very good choice. For anyone who's read
Yeah.
after the trilogy, there are two sets of spin-off like duologies. One is the Six of Crows, and so
Mm-hmm.
characters from that
Mm-hmm.
are going to be incorporated into the show,
That's right. That's
which
right.
I'm super interested in seeing how they do that because
Yeah.
they're part of later
That's what they
stories.
said. Yeah.
So, because I was thinking when we were doing this, I was like, should we do this and then read Six of Crows? But there are
Mm.
some mild, like overall spoilers for this trilogy in that. Um,
And then there's the Language
but
of
I love
Thorns
those characters.
and King of Scars here in the back with all
Yes,
of the
which I
different.
just started that one actually. Yeah.
Oh, so you hadn't even read it yet. Okay, so yeah, so anyway, I'll send you the panel later, but I thought that
Yeah, I
it
definitely
just
want to watch it.
it made me instantly more, I guess, invested in the world and these characters and all of the creative people behind the show. I was
Mhm.
like so happy for them. Even Lee Bardugo, I was like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
great for her. I'm so happy for her. So also, real quick, some other comments back about your question about how the flow went here in
Mhm.
the chat room. Jay Buntrock says, yes, it flows pretty quick. Madeline K really got into the flow of it. Erica Leal, fun and quick to read. Tim and Daisy, pretty quick, but I just finished the reading today. So yeah, I guess everybody is talking about how it flows pretty quick. And going back to what you asked me originally, also Rachel, I don't think I had dinner yet, so this wine is hitting me. Let's do this. Here we
Woo!
go. Here we
Cool.
go. This is the summary of the Shadow and Bone book and the larger Grisha verse. So, Shadow and Bone takes place in Ravka, a war-torn country plagued by something called the Shadowfold or the Unsea. SEA, a swath of monster infested darkness that suddenly appeared one day hundreds of years ago. Ravka has two armies, human and Grisha. What are the Grisha? Humans who are able to master what they call the small science. Although it seems like magic, we learn that the Grisha are really just manipulating matter at its most fundamental levels, which is interesting. We can get into that later because they sort of get into it in this book. Interesting based off of the book we just read, The Name of the
Mhm.
Wind. And lastly, I did pay attention to that panel, and it is pronounced Grisha, not Grisha or Grisha.
Yes, it's Grisha.
Grisha. That was good for me. So because I'm not doing audiobook, I was just reading it on my own.
Yeah, I
So
can
there you
help
go.
because I did the audiobook as well, so I can make sure it's Ravka, the Grisha, and Alina Starkov.
Cool.
So that's our main character. We start with Alina Starkov, a sort of meek orphaned map maker in the human army. I love that she's like, I'm a map maker. Please.
YA. Got it. Yeah. No parents
and
allowed.
and she discovers she has an incredible power on the crossing of the shadow fold. In the darkness, these horrifying creatures known as the Volcra attack Alina's regiment and nearly kill her best friend and lifelong crush, Mal. Alina somehow summons a blinding light to stave off the Volcra, and it's a rare Grisha power that changes everything for her. She's brought to the Darkling, who we are going to talk about, who's the enigmatic leader of the Grisha, who believes she's the sun summoner, the light to his dark, the one who could destroy the shadow fold and save Ravka. Before she can even say goodbye to Mal, Alina is whisked away for Grisha training at the little palace across the kingdom. Along the way, Alina sees a more intimate side of the Darkling and also witnesses some of his a staggering power. I'm sorry I said it that way. I cannot help it with the Darkling. The Darkling is like book catnip, character catnip to me. I can't. I hate. And
Why? Break
I
it
hate
down. What about it?
myself for
What about
being
it?
so predictable
Mm-hmm.
because I am.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just I'm always gonna go for a seemingly tortured, quiet, maybe bad, but it's hot wired into my brain. I don't know why. It's not good for real life, and luckily people like this don't actually exist. Or
Well, you tell that to Ben
so
Barnes. You tell that to Ben Barnes.
Can we talk about the casting
That's
for
pretty
people
great.
who have read the trilogy and have enjoyed it? Because I know we have some fans who are excited for the adaptation. What do you think of the casting? Are you excited to see it? Let us know.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about like the initial world building
Okay.
in this section before she even gets to, the little palace, for the systems of magic, for the world of Ravka. Like what did you think about how that's all set up, Hector?
Well, I forgot that you had, or either I forgot or I didn't know that you had read this entire trilogy. So I really feel like I'm at a complete disadvantage here, Rachel, with you and your knowledge. But
Why? But I want to talk, but I want to
I know. Yeah. Because I'm also curious to
Maude
know.
hasn't read it either. So
Okay.
it's
Good.
just it's not going to be us talking at fantasy about it.
Well, this is great. Then this is kind of two like really different perspectives, which is great. What I want to know afterwards, after I say my little piece, is sort of how you feel about this beginning part in a revisit. But I'll say that I don't think it was the in terms of the world building and stuff. For me, it wasn't the smoothest, but it wasn't clunky. It was just something where it was like, okay, we're getting a lot of information soon, but a lot of it is like the fantasy specific, world specific names that I'm kind of hearing, especially when it comes to the Grisha and the different types of and it's right here in the beginning of the book. Give you
It's in
this
the ebook as well, and the map I love too, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows the illustration. I think, does yours have the map?
Oh yeah, there it is.
So what I love about the map too, which I feel like I could have used the first time I read it too, for just
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like layout, but
Mm-hmm.
in the shadow fold, you can see some of the Volcra illustrations, and it's like exactly what I thought of in my head. So
Oh, that's really good.
I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
ew, these sound horrifying. Well, we have the sort of Grisha powers. And they're kind of split. Yeah, exactly.
it's kind of tough to see
There,
them there.
that's
Oh,
good.
there we go.
Yeah.
There's some creatures
Yeah.
in there
They're
in the
creepy.
unsea. Yeah.
Well, so for folks who are just joining us for Shadow and Bone, we just did The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss last month, over a couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then got to talk to him, which we haven't even talked about that yet, but my brain had like the biggest brain crush I've ever had. I was just like,
Yeah, that dude's great.
Of course, this is
Mm-hmm.
what you're like.
Mm-hmm.
he's a more likable Kvothe. It totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't it? Did that click for
He's a
you as
more
soon as you
likable.
talked to him? I was like,
Yeah, he's a more likable Kvothe. Yeah. He
it's
knew that
wild.
he knew the Tom Bombadil's song. So like whenever you meet somebody like that, you're like, okay, that's great.
If you weren't able to catch it live, that's over on
Mhm.
Maude's company Geekbomb's YouTube channel.
Mhm.
Maude will be back next week, so we'll definitely talk more about that. Because I was just
Geeking out. It was lovely. It was
just
really great.
watching it. I was like, I
It was
could just
great.
listen to you talk. You're so
Yeah.
smart.
We went super over, but it was fine. It was like, this is great.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I should probably
Yeah.
eat something, and I was like, but
Mhm.
keep going. That's fine. Keep going.
Yeah. So back to the kind of world building and stuff. Like I was saying,
Yeah.
it wasn't the smoothest for me. It wasn't too clunky. Right here in the chat, there's a great comment here from Madeline K. I liked being kind of just thrown into the world and then fleshing out the Grisha and Shadowfold lore after the fact.
Mhm.
Totally. I think I don't know how else I would have done some of the information dumping that we needed to get as a reader. I think that Alina is a standard, like, great example of a entry level character that we're going to follow with her. Like, oh, okay, like we don't know, she doesn't know
Yeah.
stuff about the world, and
The
we're learning.
outsider.
Totally. But what did you make of this first chunk on this revisit, knowing what you know, having read all 3 books, having read more than the 3 books? How did you feel about it? Did it feel like when you were reading it, oh, you know what? Lee Bardugo is dropping hints that are definitely gonna, like, this is all really super well planned, or did you think
Yes.
like, oh, that's kind of
Yes.
different than what ends up being the case?
No, I think it's definitely there are little tidbits that you can think about. It's more so from a character perspective.
Mm. Mm.
Some choices and characters that when we get into later books, I will be able to talk more specifically about
Okay.
without changing your idea of certain characters, of which there are many, but it made some of the choices that characters make later a little bit more understandable, because you put, especially for me in this kind of a book, I mean, my face always looks like this dark circles comment is literally what I say to people when I don't wear my glasses, like in real life without a light on. I mean, they're still not great, but but if I don't wear my glasses, people will be like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah, this is just what my face looks like. I am translucent and you can see all of the blood and capillaries under my skin. But you see yourself in this character a little bit.
Mhm.
Although I'm really interested to hear Maud's thoughts, because I feel like this character is quite mousy, and
Mm.
Maude is not, but I can super identify with the mossy
Yeah.
protagonist. But you put yourself kind of in that character, and then, if there are choices made and characters met down the line, and you're just like, what? But it makes sense because it's not me making those choices. People who have read the books will probably know exactly what
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
about. But we have Gaia in the channel saying she's plowing through these books, have read the trilogy, duology,
Mhm.
and starting King of Scars. Looking forward to the show. That's basically me too. That's how I've been just inhaling them.
Mhm. And in terms of the reread, Lisa Hill in the chat says, I'm catching some hints on this reread. So
Mhm.
it does, I'm sure that this is a pretty common thing, but the first time you read a book like this, sometimes the first time you're reading it, you feel like, oh, I bet you that there's a lot of stuff in here that's going to be great for the reread. Like you can just kind of sense it. And so that's kind
Mhm.
of what I'm picking up on as well. Um, okay, so should we hop into that? You don't want to talk about the relationship between
I
Alina
moved it
and
down. I moved it down.
okay, moved it down. Okay, we'll
I'm
get to that.
editing in real time.
Yes, you are. I'm seeing the master at work. All right, I'm
Oops.
going to keep drinking wine because I'm definitely getting buzzed, and I'm going to
Well,
keep going.
let's dive
Mhm.
into getting to the little palace, because I think once we
Okay.
kind of get through, everything we know so far, we can dive deeper into some of
Gotcha.
the individual moments. So take
Okay.
it away, sir.
We get to the little palace, and Alina's eyes are open to a much more pampered lifestyle than she's used to. Outside, Ravka is ravaged by poverty, but at the capital, the Grisha and royals have every comfort. Yeah, there was a moment where she was like, sugar, just
I
because it's
know.
so rationed outside, and everyone was looking at her like, what is she talking about? We have sugar all the time, like that kind of thing. Alina struggles to fit in amongst the other Grisha, who have all been studying since they were small. And here we learn much more about the Grisha army. Grisha are split up into 3 categories based on the type of small science that they study. Corporalki, Corporalki, the
Koporalki.
Corporalki, the order of
It's
the
very
living and the
like
dead.
Russian Slavic
Yes, thank you,
language.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Raquela, thank you.
Koporalki. Yeah.
Okay,
Correct. How
Corporalki.
you do it in Russian. Just don't say
uh,
Raquel in Italy.
the order of the living and the dead includes healers, heart renders, and tailors. Then there is the Etheralki,
Etherealki.
Etherealki, Etherealki. The order of summoners includes squallers, inferni, and tide makers. And then there's the Materialki, the order of fabricators with a K. Not so that's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of this stuff was like, this is kind of what I was talking about. Some of it felt a little bit to me like again, it's not clunky, but I'm getting hit with these names and I'm kind of like, okay, it's not really landing and sinking in yet
hmm
with what the idea is, with what the meaning is. This is the part where Hector shows that his brain is dumb, and that
No.
it benefits Hector's brain to have, again, an adaptation or a
Right.
visualization, or
There
if
are
I
a
were
lot
to
of
watch, for
people that
sure,
feel that way. It's
for
not, I
sure, for
think
sure.
I appreciate it because I have aphantasia for those
Hmm.
who are new to the journey of book club. So I
Yeah.
can't picture things in my mind's eye
Hmm.
very strongly. I don't know how to describe what actually happens, but it's hard for me. So with adaptations, I like it too because I never really picture them in my head. I'm like on this journey with them and
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
learning about them and kind of just consuming and processing it, but I'm never like,
It's
oh,
not
this is what they
visual.
look, there's never a visual component unless I'm like trying really hard to generate something and it's like
You, but
it's not there.
but you're still there, and the words in your mind are the actual like meaning of the words, the definitions of those words, the ideas of those words. Like you're still in the story, but you just don't have
Yeah,
that
I'm
visual component.
immersed. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
it's yeah, I don't know how to say to describe it because it just makes me sound like a robot, but like processing it kind of and like I don't know, like I don't know. Feels kind of I mean analyzing and I don't know, maybe I am a robot. I'm a cell.
No, not at all.
You
I
just
think I
sound
think
bleep blorp, don't understand pictures or
no,
feelings.
we talked about it. We talked about it. We've talked about it months and months and years ago. But I remember something like, if you say red star, you know what a star is. You know what the
Yeah,
color red is. So
yeah,
you're like, yeah, okay, I got it. It's in my
yeah.
head. I got it.
I know what it yeah,
The
I
idea of a red
understand it,
star.
but I'm
And
not seeing it.
I could literally close my eyes and I could picture a red star, and it's right there. And that's the thing where you're like, no, nope.
Yeah, and I didn't know that that was weird until a few years ago when I read an article. So, hey,
Hmm.
every time I bring this up, someone is like, I think I have that. So, if you do, let us know. The cartographer is loving the Eastern European, Russian evoking imagery, but with such
Hmm.
17th century French nobles playing at peasantry. Agreed.
Hmm.
I like that there is this um, different kind of cultural vibe to the naming conventions and this like sort of very blustery wintry place
Hmm.
and for the Grisha, I do think this is, you know, especially in any kind of genre there are the tropes and you kind of take them and play with them, and I do think
Hmm.
that happens with a lot of the characters, but the way I think about the different types of Grisha is like the corporal. I mean, it's also like the root of the names kind of helps with that, but sort of the
Hmm.
like physical living beings, the manipulation of the small science for bodies, animals, fur. So you can heal
Hmm.
someone, you can change the way that they look, you can, you know, bust their heart with your mind. Which the heart renders, they could just like Boom. That's a scary one. I would be very afraid of those ones
Is it
and
like
would not.
blood? It's like blood bending. It's like I just
Yes.
keep
Yeah.
I keep going back to Avatar: The Last
Well,
Airbender.
because Avatar: The Last Airbender is
It's
so good.
amazing. It's so good. But especially because this question that you have in here, Rachel, and we'll talk about it after you keep going and describing the different alkies. But you say here in the script, we just read The Name of the Wind, which has its own magic system. How does this one compare? And I think I keep thinking about Avatar: The Last Airbender in terms of like I think that's my favorite magic system
Mhm.
in any
It's
fictional story.
elemental.
And it's yeah, it's like so easy to understand, and yet there's so many opportunities for storytelling and creativity. Like again, when you watch that show for the first time and then they tell you what water bending is, you're like, oh, okay. And then you get to a point in the series where they're like, also there's a thing that's called blood bending, and you're like, what? No way. It's just really cool. So okay, so corporality is like the living. Okay.
Yeah, the bot. Yeah, it's living creatures
Hmm.
and manipulating those things in different ways. And then the etherealky is summoning elements. So, um, squallers control the wind, inferni control fire, and tide makers water.
Got it.
And the darkling has that with the darkness. And so Alina is the only, he's the only one
Oh,
that there is that they know of. And it's been sort of like, I think it's implied that
prophesized.
it's passed down through generations, this like title when you have that power, but
Mm.
there's no record of like a summoner that they know of. So it's very,
Oh.
yeah. So that's why when they're talking about she is this savior, which is
Mhm.
obviously a YA trope or any kind of storytelling trope, but she doesn't feel like that. It isn't quite chosen one. It's almost like King Arthur or something where
Right.
it's I don't know if that's actually
I mean,
accurate.
even
Is King
even a little
Arthur a
bit
chosen
like
one? I guess.
Rachel, have you gotten to The Legend of Korra yet? Have you started that
No, I
series?
haven't. I need to.
So, spoiler, it's almost like a little bit like Legend of Korra because Korra is the avatar after Aang. So you
I
know how
do know that.
the avatar thing works, and then it's like Korra shows up in the first episode of her show, and she's a very different and has a very different background and is a very different character than Aang, but she still gets this thing, you're the avatar, thrust
Mhm.
upon her. And
Right, like the
it is
Dalai
that
Lama.
once in a generation. Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Dark Lord Des says Avatar: The Last Airbender is the best. I kept thinking of it too, mixed with a bit of the Golden Compass vibes.
Yes.
I actually could pick up on that as well.
And I think
Yeah.
too that with the Golden Compass, that's another story that has a really not complicated world, but definitely is like our world or like a world, but there are specific details. I mean, there's just
Mhm.
more world building than, something that might be your general fantasy, high fantasy stuff.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
that one also throws you in a little bit and you pick up clues as you go. And I love that style of storytelling, clearly. So because I love his dark materials.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's interesting to see, this. I don't think that the magic or small science is as much the point as it is in Name of the Wind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And also Patrick Rothfuss was, actively trying to subvert all of these different tropes, and that's so abundantly clear. Different subgenres of fantasy. But I just
Mhm.
found that I was like, oh right. Because when you do read any kind of story like this, there is that sort of, especially with a school, um, and we've had done that and Harry Potter and all of those things too. But I want to
Mhm.
know up to this point before she really gets into the school, what did you think of the Darkling? I really want to hear your thoughts on it because you are a grown man that's not does not fall prey to the fantasy and
Mhm.
romance tropes that I might. But when you meet him and then on the journey to the little palace, like what did you think of him and his dynamic with her?
I think that in the past couple years, I don't know when it started to become super, super mainstream, but like maybe like within the last 5 years, the idea of shipping has become a thing that fandoms have brought to like the forefront.
Yeah, I
And
think it's more popular now, much like comic books are because of the
yeah,
way, but definitely shipping and fanfic and all that has some,
it's always been a thing.
yeah.
And there's good things and bad things about it, trust me. And me being a Trekkie, I love learning about the history of that, because a big part of the history of shipping in any fiction in, you know, the 20th and 21st century is like it does end up going back to some Star Trek stuff where
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's so
with it
cool.
first few seasons of that show, people were writing fanfic of like, well, Spock loves Captain Kirk and Captain Kirk loves Spock. Like that thing is the
I
thing.
mean, that's true,
Come
right?
on. Come on. Yeah, it's Spirk, I think is
Oh,
the
Stargirl
yeah.
314. Let them smooch. That is
So
my
uh,
motto.
what I was going to say was that the idea of shipping as a concept and what it means when people get into a story and how they interact with the story and how they that whole thing has helped me kind of understand what it is and how people connect to stories, and it's made it more, I guess, just understandable for me. Where if in the past it was, if it was something that I wasn't a fan of or like didn't agree with or whatever the case may be, whatever. I still think that the past couple years, hearing people talk about shipping made me go, okay, I get it. And I think that's also impacted how storytellers, without being like mean about it or teasing or whatever, but like all these writers know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like it's so clear that Lee Bardugo knows what she's doing. So I think that me reading moments with the Darkling and how he's interacting with Alina, I'm clearly going like, okay, people are shipping these two, as well as Mal. We can talk about him, but like, I think that he was, from the get, such a sweet sort of character that like, okay, we're also supposed to ship Alina with it. And then I went, okay, this is one of those things about YA is that I am not a young woman, but the story may not be laser focused for me, but that is okay. I can
Yep.
always appreciate when a protagonist has options, which is great. It goes with every fantasy or sci-fi or superhero or what, like that. It goes with all these types.
Love a love triangle.
Love a love triangle. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
no matter what, when I'm like, oh, this good boy and this bad boy, and both have pros and cons and have different vibes with her as she's, learning
Mm-hmm.
about herself.
Mm-hmm. I will, I
Sucker
will,
for it.
I will
Don't
always
even
say,
care.
if there's a guy who's like a good guy, a good boy in one
Yeah.
of these stories, I can usually pick up on that and root for that character just in the writing. If there's a character that's like a bad boy, I may get annoyed and go and roll my eyes a little bit with the writing, but whenever I see an adaptation of that story and an actor plays the bad boy, I tend to like sympathize more and go like, okay, I get it. And again, it's Ben Barnes in this case.
Um,
So so knowing
I
he's the Darkling, I'm like, I get it. I
because
get
he's
it.
because he's a lit like I feel like he's going to do a good job at being a little scary,
Mhm.
very mysterious and
Mhm.
like imposing, but with like where you're
Mhm.
like, what happened?
And like
What happened to
a little
you?
flirty.
Will you tell me your sob story?
Yes.
Can I
Absolutely.
be the one that you finally open up to?
I get it. I get it. So, yeah, so that was fun. Although there was a lot of like neck touching and right? Isn't that with the Darkling? Wasn't there something between the Darkling and Alina in this first half of the first book where there's some sort of like
There's definitely some, yeah, it's
caressing of some sort?
well, and I mean, getting into it, we learn so much more, and I really like the sort of all of the amplifier stuff, which kind of we get a hint a little bit at why the series is called Shadow and Bone.
Mhm.
And Shadow, obviously the Shadow Fold, but we learn about amplifiers, which are these, objects, usually, part of an animal, a power, like a mystical, powerful animal that can help like boost Grisha's powers.
Got
But
it.
the Darkling is a living amplifier. So whenever like all he has to do is really touch Alina, or he cuts her hand at the beginning,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think, her arm. And that's how he gets her power when she's supposed to show the king, because Alina cannot get it. She
Yeah.
cannot figure it out, and that is also a trope. But I do like that and found it interesting that even though we meet these new characters, she doesn't get like the friend group that I feel a lot of these characters normally do. She still feels very isolated
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't, Jenya is awesome. I think she's a really fun character,
Yes.
but she's at a distance. She is part of, the royal court a little bit. And the other girls in her group kind of are like, okay, this girl's kind of weird. She's not as impressive as we thought she was when she
Mm-hmm.
which I can understand, but I do like that and I think it's important to note how much she's isolated herself, how isolated she is,
Mm-hmm.
because we get to this revelation about Bagra, which we will get to. But yeah, we meet some new characters. What do you think about sort of once she gets to the little palace, all of the little court intrigue? How did that work for you?
I don't care about court intrigue, not the stuff I
There
care
isn't
about.
a lot of it though.
No, and then also tied in with court intrigue is, I think, a very, from what I'm learning, what I'm learning is a common well of storytelling that YA authors will dip into, which is like, girl living on the streets, young girl who's tough, young woman who's tough, and every woman, and who is maybe poor, and who is maybe, they don't bathe all the time. All of a sudden they get thrust into like the high court and the kings and queens and your majesty, and you must curtsy and you must learn which forks are which forks. And part of that, it's like Little Mermaid to me. It's like, it's, so many different things. And then with the section with the library, I'm like, that's like Beauty and the Beast for me. These really relatable touchstones for this character to have, to give her like priorities that I think we would relate to, but then also to put her into this, fish out of water scenario where she has to be fancy. And the story is really focusing on like the type of beautiful clothes that they're giving her, and the types, like the things that they're doing with her hair and making her look beautiful and stuff, which I think is great, and it's fun, and court intrigue is fun. But again, I'm a dude in my 30s, not in it for this stuff. I'm kind of like, yeah,
No,
got it,
totally fair. And I think, Kelsey, I agree with you, loves the court intrigue, gravitates to books that have a lot of that. And Chelsea says Jenya is bae, agree.
Mhm.
But I think what I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as we keep reading is less about what's happening when you're kind of in those scenes, and more about, like, we were talking about the way that the Grisha, eat their food, which is sort of like the Disneyland version of serf peasant food, and the social hierarchy of the Grisha, and how they don't, you know, sit together, and these different things, and what that
Mhm.
kind of is saying about this place that Alina is in, and the Darkling, and the way that the Grisha are trained, which
Mhm.
leads me to my question, which is just for you. That the Grisha, we learn, are taken to the little palace to be trained when they're really young. They have to do kind of a test to see if they have this power, if you will. Maybe this like force inside of them. But yeah, it just immediately reminded me of the
Maybe they
Jedi. So I
have
wanted to
mitochondrians in their blood.
oh no.
It's super similar. It was super similar. It was when we got to that section where Alina was like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, like, your family. Like, how often do you go home?" And that character was like, "Oh, I haven't seen my family since I was 5." I was like, "Oh, that's 100%. Will I ever see you again?" What does your heart tell you, Annie? Yes. Okay.
Right before you
Great.
die.
Right before I die, Annie. Yeah, totally. And and the first, also the well, that's the first connection that I made. The second thing that I thought was, it's a flawed system. Anytime these fantasy worlds, realms, take kids away from their parents to be able to be like, you're now part of a larger, I'm like, that's a bad system.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will be torn down by the end of the third book. Rachel? Okay, great.
I will say, I think that even though the setup is familiar, I don't think
Mm.
You'll expect a lot of the things that happen.
Good. I'm really the thing that I'm like looking forward to is the fact that this book, Shadow and Bone and the trilogy, this was written in a post Star Wars world. So I want to see writers tackle these kinds of ideas and be like, okay, what's going to be different? What would you do differently? You know,
Mhm,
I know that if I ever wrote any kind of a fantasy story that if it included anything like this, yeah, I would try to do something very different than what like
mhm,
Star Wars has done, or
mhm.
stories about monks or whatever it may be. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So we, for those of you who again are new, we also have an after show for Nerdist Book Club. We're not going to have it this week because Maud's not here, but basically, Maud Garrett's amazing website Geekbomb. If you go to the Patreon, you can sign up to get into this Discord channel that we have, and we actually are. I was in there today trying to source some questions and things like that, and we talk more about the books, but usually in the after show, you get to call in afterwards and kind of talk to us one-on-one. You don't have to turn your camera on or anything, just you know unless you hate the sound of your own voice, which I do, but we can push past it together. But it's really fun because we get to kind of hear, even beyond the questions in the chat and on Twitter and everything, what's resonating with you. And so one of our lovely Discord members, Sweet Pea 3674, said, I want to talk more about the Apparat and Bagra. We know very little about them at this point, but they stuck out to me. So I want to talk about these two. Um,
You got it.
let's go, Hector.
Okay. Is it weird that every time I saw Bagra, I thought of Bagheera from Jungle
No,
Book? Okay.
no. I
Okay.
thought of Agra from the Dark Crystal.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's just where our
Great.
brains go.
Is that Dark Crystal the movie or Dark Crystal the show?
She's in both.
Oh, very cool.
Agra, she's like the oracle with the eye. That was supposed to be an eye anyway.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. But let's get into it. Like the Darkling, Bagra is a living amplifier, unlike most Grisha, who must use powerful objects like bones, scales, or teeth of mystical animals to boost their powers. The Darkling and Bagra are able to amplify other Grisha's powers by touching them. Bagra is a powerful summoner, a sharp and stern woman who seems ancient and ageless all at once. She is extremely tough on Alina, who struggles to summon even a glimmer of light without an amplifier, living or otherwise. So, question: does anyone have any theories about Bagra or living amplifiers? This is a great question, Rachel. I don't have any theories yet, but I did think that it was a great character moment, if not, again, a little bit, excuse me, kind of like predictable, especially because I was thinking about things like the Jedi and Star Wars and what have you. But when Alina kind of gave up on Mal, like she sort of realized
Mhm.
like this isn't going to happen, or he's unavailable, or I'm unavailable, or I have to commit to this, or whatever it was that she was going through, that's when she was able to be like, boof. And then Bagra was like, good, now we will begin. And that's literally where we stopped in our section.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at the different, like seeing where to stop, and I was like, this is a good one. This is a good
Mhm.
where you're like, but what?
Now we shall begin. End of section one.
Yeah.
So on Twitter, Java Book Geek Girl also noted, still thinking about the scene in Shadow and Bone where the creepy AF priest talks about blessing slash benediction and faith. I've written many benedictions and spent a lot of time studying religion. There is a lot of scary truth in faith being both powerful and dangerous. Oh, Rachel, where did you grab this? This is another brilliant observation from Java Book Geek Girl. This is a fantastic observation. I agree 100%. Faith can be both powerful and dangerous.
And
So that was great.
I find interesting about the apparat, who is just a nightmare, like a personal nightmare for me, is like a really creepy dude who just keeps talking to you about how special you are when you're alone. Like
Yeah.
that is the worst thing. And it happens. But I do think
Huh?
that he's this kind of mysterious figure that is really kind of showing Alina that this is so much bigger than her going through her stuff and thinking like the whole country knows who you are now, and they're already so low, like they become the, you know, they are a very, there is a religious subsect of the sort of lower class, which is on pretty much everyone who's not in the Grisha or in like a noble family of some kind, that she's now being propped up as a saint. There are all these weird, like, he's like, people are building like effigies to you. And so she, you know, has to kind of, she realizes like, I'm not, it just doubles down the pressure for her, I think, of like, I'm not just messing this up for myself and disappointing the Darkling and doing all of these different, you know, it's not just my inner circle, it's everyone.
The world,
the
the
whole
land.
world. It's the
I'm
whole
letting,
world.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, you're the Avatar. You have to wage war. I'm 12. I'm a 12-year-old boy. I have to,
know.
I gotta fight the Fire Lord. Like, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. There's another great comment from Java Book Geek Girl that the key is that a benediction is a blessing at the end of the worship service. So the emphasis on her being an ending has a lot to it too.
Interesting.
And Alina's like, is this supposed to be positive or is this like a threat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who would stand to benefit from, you know, are there forces at work probably that don't want her to succeed, and why? Which I find super interesting. And then we finally get to, I definitely want to talk about this because I think this was a little bit of a turning point for me in terms of Alina's character, because I was a little frustrated with her, kind of similar to what you were thinking, but more so like,
oh,
you
with
have
Mal?
this power, like you can do it. Why are you like, but it's also like, I can't even imagine what, you know, I don't even know how old she's supposed to be, 17, 18. Even then, just any confidence in anything I was doing, let alone like something that the whole world knows about, with all these fancy people who are way hotter than me and have been doing this way longer. So I do understand it. But the moment that she does realize she is by herself and she does need to kind of do this, and also that she was so lonely as a kid that she subconsciously suppressed her own power, her own light, to stay with Mal. And she would have done that in this case too if she'd been able to. She would not have gone. And so I really, this sort of, that got me where I was like, ooh, we're going to really see her. I was excited to see what she's like as she starts to kind of embrace that, because you do feel like she doesn't just have the like, oh, she's an awkward girl trope. Like, she cannot physically keep up with everyone. She feels like she has like anemia times 1,000 sort of deal. And so yeah, I just like that we ended this section on that, where she's like waking up to herself.
And I also know that just from the fact that like Mal seems like he's a prominent character in the show from like the panel I watched, and knowing that they told us that Mal was alive but just somewhere else. It wasn't like a mystery of like, he could be dead. This could be cut off from you forever. I know Mal is going to show back up as a character, and I'm interested in that reunion. I'm interested in how this story is going to show Alina coming into her own, realizing what kind of a person she is and what she wants to do, and then being reconfronted with like, oh, but then here's like your childhood love, maybe like your childhood best friend slash brother slash like you fell in love with him.
That was very unrequited, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
she was just, I mean, at least in her mind, she was just constantly like, there he goes with another pretty girl, and I'm his best friend. Like,
been there, done that. So that's gonna be who hasn't beautiful people, and I don't trust them. So that's gonna be the fun thing about about that moment because yeah, it does feel like a turning point. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it was a good cliffhanger. If there was a section, if there was stuff in that book where I was like maybe bored by it, that last part where you decided for us to be done with the section, I was like, oh man, that's a good tease. All right, let's go do the show.
Boop. Yeah, I
Boop.
think
Yeah.
that's a part too that's like, okay, now we're
Hmm.
we're in it, you know. I feel
Yeah.
like instead of, you know, if you have it where it's like, okay, well, she's still struggling with it and you don't get to that next like
It
hurdle.
it it did change how I viewed Alina for sure. But somebody in the chat, Stargirl, just said, "Does anyone else think they are holding back her letters to or from Mal?" Now you got me all paranoid. Now I'm not going to count out that Mal can't be somebody who like shows back up and is like, "No, I love you too." I feel like the story could also go in that direction, and that there could be a really good reasons for why nothing ever happened between these two young people up to this point. So I'm not trying to like, I'm also not trying to cut off Mal from my life and my heart because I don't know what's going to happen.
No, totally. And I will say that the first time I read this, that was my suspicion because I'm always trying to find
Oh,
some mystery to solve, even if it's not there, which again, who's to say? There's a lot of things. So final thoughts and theories. I want to hear from the chat as well. But Hector, let's get a super wild prediction from you for the second second half of the book.
super wild
Are you
prediction.
done with your wine? I feel like if you
No, I have a lot
okay, I was
left.
gonna say don't
I'll
don't
chug
do
it.
it. No,
Okay. No?
I wasn't.
Crazy prediction. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
We can't ask you because you've read it. I think that um I mean, I think a character that we've been introduced to so far is going to die. I think that's going to happen in the second. I mean, I realize that by the time we reconvene next week, we'll have finished the first book. So I really need to swing for the fences here.
Yeah.
I think that Ben Barnes's character is going to die.
Okay.
That's my swing. Maybe it's a swing and a miss, but you know
Okay.
what? Yeah, that's what I think.
That's a
what I
good
think's gonna
that's a
happen.
good prediction. Let us know yours on Twitter as well. So your homework for next week, finish the book. Super
That's it.
easy.
That's it.
Since Maude is out tonight, we're not going to be happening. Sorry, I have to stop. The Darkling is Mephisto.
Madeline
Yeah,
K, you're
you
right.
figured it out.
I
How
think
did
you're
you do
right.
that?
That'd be great. That'd be great. If Netflix were smart, they would do that.
They would do that. Even though it's totally different platforms.
Or just get Evan Peters to be in that show as well, to just show up and be like, "Hey,
Who,
what's
Evan
up?
Peters?
Yeah, I'm Ralph Boner. Hi."
Boner.
That'd be great. Oh boy.
Your homework is to
Yeah.
finish I'm smart and mature. Your homework for next week is to finish the book. And since Maude is out tonight, we are not going to be having the after show, but we will be checking the Discord. So head on over to the Geekbomb Patreon to sign up. You can get access. I think it's any tier. And it's really fun because we get to chat in the after show, which we will have next week. Keep sending us your thoughts, questions, and theories. We will talk about them next week on the show. I really love hearing, you know, what people, how you're interpreting all of the books that we're reading. And we do it in real time in the show, but I love when people are like, oh, I had this feeling and I had to share it. Share it with us. We want that. So thanks, Hector.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week and go watch that panel with the cast. I'll shoot it over
Send
to
me
you,
the
Rachel.
link.
I
Yeah.
will, for sure.
Awesome.
For sure.
All right. Bye guys. See you next week.
Bye.